To make sure it happens, I'd love you to be able to take a picture of that. Let people know you celebrated Easter at Lifeway Church. I'm excited for today. We've been in a series called Alive and Active, where we've been talking about the fact that God is living, that He's alive and that He's active. We're going to be in this series all month long, and this is really, really important because here's why this is so important. We've realized through the scriptures that if you just serve a dead religious activity, it will not help you in the moments of disaster. If all we have is dead religious activities where we just do the same thing over and over and we don't even know why, it will not help us in the moment of disaster. Yeah, it works when things are smooth, but when disaster hits, if you're serving something dead or if you're just doing it to do it, it doesn't help you. It doesn't help in the moments of disaster. And so we've been talking about the importance of realizing that we're serving a living God. A God that wants to know you and a God that wants you to know Him. He wants to be involved in your situation. I mean, there's nothing worse than dead religious activity. It gets boring, it gets old, and then it ends up not producing when things don't go the way we hoped. And I was looking this week and I realized something. There is not a person in our Bibles that didn't experience trial. Not one. There's not one. And they're the angelic ones. Like they're the ones that are supposed to be like, fluttering around on clouds and everything's going great. And every single one of them experienced trial, which means we have to have a living God in our lives to get through these situations. And so I want to talk a little bit about this today with you. You might not know this. Maybe you've heard this before. Maybe you haven't. But did you know that the Saturday before the resurrection, the Saturday before it all took place, was known as Silent Saturday? You ever heard that before? It's known as Silent Saturday, and some would call it a deafening silence. You ever had something so tragic happen that there's just this, it's just a deafening silence, like you don't even know what to say? It just deafening. It's known as Silent Saturday because of the shock that it just took on. And the thing about it is God made Himself heard on Friday. He tore the curtains of the temple. He opened the graves of the dead. He rocked the earth. He blocked the sun. He sent the only Son of heaven to be crucified on a cross. The earth heard much of God on Friday. Like Friday was going, whoa, what just took place? Even the ones that crucified Him went, oh no, what did we just do? Like earth heard a lot of God on Friday. And on Sunday, when Jesus rose again, earth heard a lot from God on Sunday. But on Saturday, it was absolutely silent. Nothing on Saturday. Jesus was silent, God was silent, and Saturday was absolutely silent. You ever experienced that before? That silent Saturday? See, we have them too. We might not realize it, but we have those silent Saturdays as well. It looks like this. It's the day between the struggle and the answer, right? The struggle and the solution. It's that moment in between where I get hit in the face, where I hit a brick wall, and then the solution hasn't shown up yet. That's that moment, that silent Saturday. We experience them as well. That moment between solution and problem. What do I do in the middle of this thing? That moment between the question I'm asking and the answer showing up. When I don't know what to do, but it seems so serious, I've got to know right now or everything's going to fall apart. That moment is known as the Silent Saturdays. That prayer that I pray for help and I cry out to God, and the moment between the prayer being prayed and the answer thereof is our Silent Saturdays. What do we do in those moments? See, those Silent Saturdays, they mess with us. They torment us. We say things like this: is God angry with me? Did I disappoint Him somehow? I mean, God knew Jesus was in the tomb. Why didn't He do anything? Why didn't He do anything? That looks like our situations. When our situation is bad, or in maybe your case, He knows your career's in the tank. He knows your marriage is about to be broken. He knows your finances are in a pit. He knows things aren't going the way they should. Where is He? See, these silent Saturdays, they torment us because we don't know what to do in those moments. We don't know where He's at. Why isn't He talking? What are we supposed to do? What do we do in these moments, these silent Saturdays? What do we do in that moment? I think what we do in that moment determines who we become, determines what our life looks like. It's amazing to me that two people can go through the exact same problem. One can come out a conqueror, the other comes out defeated. It's not the problem. It's what do you do in the middle of that? It's who you go through that moment with. And today I want to show you two men in the Bible that had a horrible, horrible silent Saturday. And I just want to take us on a journey today with these two men because they're all over in our Bible. And it's going to help us. It's going to help you know what to do in the moment of these silent Saturdays. I like to say it like this. For these two men, the bottom fell out. You ever had the bottom fall out? Or it just felt like the carpet got yanked out from under you? These two men, it happened for them. Aren't you glad you can correlate with the men of our Bibles? Aren't you glad our Bibles aren't some fairy tale story that doesn't line up with our life? No, these men were walking, I like to say, down the road of depression and despair, just like kicking the rocks. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, now what? Right? They are just head down, walking. Check this out with me. Luke chapter 24. If you got a Bible with you today, Luke 24. If you got a phone with an app on it, follow along with me. I'd just love for you to see it yourself. If not, be up on the screen here. Luke 24, we've run into two men who I feel like are walking down the road of despair because they're right in the moment of coming out of this silent Saturday where everything was just heavy and weighty, and what in the world just went on. Verse 13 says this: at the same day, two of Jesus' followers, notice they were his followers, were walking to a village of Emmaus. You know what I like about this word Emmaus is it means hot baths. Anyone like a hot bath in here? I'm a bath guy. Sorry if that makes me feminine. I love it. Give me some bubbles and some smells. I like the bath. It means hot springs, hot bath. They're hurting so bad they just need a hot bath. You know what I'm talking about? Just get us to Emmaus. That's what the town means. I think that's funny. That's preacher funny. They're going to the hot bath. And not only that, but they're 7 miles from Jerusalem, which is the city of peace. And so not only do they need a hot bath, they're 7 miles from peace. You ever been there before? Where it's like, I know peace is right over there. I just don't have it here yet. They're just 7 miles from peace. They gotta get it. They're just not there yet. They're heading to the city of peace. And it says, as they walked along, notice this, they were talking about everything that had happened. You ever done that before? I mean, they're talking, what in the world just went on? They're walking down this gravelly road, kicking rocks, talking about everything that had just gone on, and their mind is in dismay. They can't put things together, and it's like, what in the world just took place here? What had happened? These guys are not doing good. The bottom falls out for them. And the next verse says this, verse 15. As they talked and discussed these things, Jesus himself, I love that. Jesus himself suddenly came and began walking with them. But God kept them from recognizing him. These guys are in despair. They are down and out, walking, talking about everything that had gone on. And all of a sudden, just boop, Jesus appears in the middle of them. And it's like, whoa, what's up? Jesus shows up. They couldn't recognize him, but he shows up right in the middle of what's going on. You know what I love about this is when your bottom falls out, when you're in the middle of despair, when you're in the middle of that silent Saturday, there's something you gotta know. There's something you've gotta find out. There's something you've got to experience, and it's this truth that Jesus shows up in the middle of that journey. You might not know it, you might not feel it, and you might not even recognize it, but I'm telling you, the way to get through the silent Saturday is recognizing the fact that it's him walking with you. And some of you are in the midst of something right now, and my question for you is, do you recognize him? Because he's walking with you. What I love about Jesus is he shows up in the worst of moments. He shows up in the moment of despair. He's right there walking with you on that silent Saturday. Well, I don't feel it. And they couldn't feel it either. They couldn't even recognize him. And I think this is funny. As we go on, verse 17, Jesus asks them, hey, what are you guys discussing so intently as you walk along? Now, this is a little bit of sarcasm and compassion at the same time, right? Like, he knows everything. So what y'all talking about, right? He already knows, but at the same time, he cares about the situation. What are you talking about? And look what they said. As they stopped short, sadness written across their faces. Like, I want you to know these guys are in it. Like, the bottom just got pulled out for them. One of them, Cleopas, replied, "You must be the only person in Jerusalem who hasn't heard about all the things that have happened these last few days." And it happened to him, right? You're the only guy that doesn't know. And he's going, little do you know, right? I'm the one. It just happened to him. And they're telling him, you don't realize what just took on these last few days? And this is a whole story that I'm just going to paraphrase for you, because Jesus goes on to tell them, you know what Jesus does actually? He actually rebukes them, which is like a spanking. Like, what? Like, are you kidding me? Do you not understand what's going on? Here's what he says. They go on to tell him, you don't realize that the man Jesus, the Messiah, the King, the one who was to come, who was supposed to be the answer to everything bad, was here. And he just got handed over by the religious people of the day, and they killed him. They crucified him, and he was supposed to be the Lord of glory. And these guys are just shaken to the core. You don't realize that we just lost the one who was supposed to be the answer? And what happened wasn't supposed to happen to him. That's what we're struggling with. And Jesus turns around and he says this to him. He says, don't you realize that all of this was supposed to happen for the Son of God to be glorified? Haven't you ever read all of this was supposed to happen? He says, are you foolish? Like, that's kind of that moment when you're like, what? Right? Like, do you not realize this is everything that was supposed to go on? You know what he's saying to him? Do you not realize that your mess is prophecy? Do you not realize that your worst day right now, you're in the middle of prophecy? The very thing that you think is disaster for you is exactly where you're supposed to be. Sometimes your storm is the same thing. When you think everything's ruined and it's over and now I'm just done. And God's going, no, you're right where you need to be. That's what he's saying. You are right in the middle of everything that was supposed to happen. All of this was supposed to take place. And you're in the middle of it. And they're kind of like, okay, right? Like, and so here's what Jesus does. Jesus goes all the way back to the Old Testament with these guys, and he starts to walk them through the Bible and show them him in the Old Testament. That I'm in this story, and I'm in that story, and that I'm in this story, and all of these Old Testament stories actually parallel to me coming and this happening. And they're kind of like, whoa. Like, he just begins to reveal himself all through the scriptures as they're walking. And check this out with me, verse 28. We come back up to this, and it says, by this time, they were nearing Emmaus. They're getting close to that hot bath. And at the end of their journey, Jesus acted as if he was going to go on. But they begged him, no, stay the night with us since it's getting late. And so he went home with them. I love that because Jesus he's just kind of playing them. Like, yeah, all right, guys, I'm going to keep going. See you later. No, don't leave. If you ever pick that up in the middle of your disaster, you'll see victory. Don't leave. I don't need anything but you. Do you know sometimes, I should say all of the time, the answer you're looking for is him, not the thing? And they realize it. No, whoever you are, whatever you're doing, don't leave. You stay with us tonight. We want you close. We want you close. And look what happens. They sit down for dinner, which I love this because dinner is always, in these days, dinner was always intimacy. It always meant intimacy. It meant I want to know you more. I want to connect. It was intimacy. And so they sit down to eat. And as they sat down to eat, Jesus took the bread and he blessed it. And then he broke it and he gave it to them. And suddenly their eyes were open and they recognized him and he disappeared. Just like, it's like, what? Like, this is just phenomenal to me because in the middle of your moments, in the middle of your silent Saturdays, the thing that we have to do is recognize him. Because once you see him in the situation, you're good to go. Once they saw him, once they could experience, he's right here with us in the moment of this situation. He's right here in the moment of this weight and heaviness. He left. Boom. That's what you needed. You needed to see me in your situation. And he goes. In verse 32, and they said to each other, didn't our hearts burn within us as he talked with us on the road, explaining the scriptures to us? And so they turn to one another and they're like, Oh my, did you feel that inside? Was your heart burning when he was talking to us about who he is and who he was and who he's going to be? Was something burning in you? And they're like, yes, I'm burning. You know what this is? This is joy. This is joy coming back to them. This burning in the heart is just like a joy or a reigniting of vibrancy that, you know what, I can do this. This can happen. I can get through this. It's this spark again of life. You might have lost this. You might not have this right now. You might be wondering where this went. But this was the very thing when Jesus showed up in their situation, their hearts began to burn again, that he's in us. It's good. It can all be all right. And joy begins to stir in the inside of them. Our hearts burned within us. I love that. In verse 33, it says, within the hour, they were on their way back to Jerusalem. They headed back, man. We are boogieing. And they found the 11 disciples and the others who gathered with them, who said this. Notice this. The Lord has really risen. I love this. They go find the 11 disciples who all had this testimony. Did you guys realize he's alive? And they all had experienced, he's risen. He's risen. And through the moment and the weight of this silent Saturday, they come into the realization that all of us should be living for today. He is risen. He's alive. And these 11 stamped it. He is alive. And from this day on, their lives began to change. From this day on, they got a mission that they began to live by. From this day on, something new had happened. We're living for a new mission. We're living for a new purpose. And they didn't just go as far as to be like, yeah, we're just going to start something new. I mean, they literally tattooed it upon their hearts. We have a brand new mission. We got a brand new mission. We are living for something completely different than before. And you know what's so important about this? Is a lot of us, if I were to go down the streets and take 10, 20 people and ask them, oh, hey, hold up, stop. What did Jesus do for you? 90% of those people would probably answer, well, he died for me. He died for me. He died for me. You might even answer that. I might even answer that if you caught me off guard. Well, he died for me. But not the disciples that changed the world. Not the disciples that changed the world. Not the disciples that started to experience what he could do in their life. Their testimony was he is risen. And no longer would they stop at, well, he died for me. There's a whole new mission. He is risen. He's alive. We're not serving some dead religion. We're not doing some dead religious activity. Oh no, he is risen. And they literally tattooed this upon their life. Is for us, he is risen. He's alive. And it became the testimony that they began to live by. And I want this same thing for us. I want this same thing for you, that your witness and your testimony could begin to be, he's risen. Like that's not something you share when someone's struggling. Have you shared that lately? Like when someone's down and out, it's like, hey, he's risen. No, it's not a testimony that we're very used to. And I think that's the problem. I think it needs to come back. It needs to stay in the forefront because that's how we experience who he is and what he wants to do in our life. He is risen. And when you believe this, when you lay a hold of this to the point that it changes your life, to the point where you begin to live like he is risen, you begin to have this ability again where faith starts to rise up in you again. The reality of choosing joy in the morning. The reality and the ability of choosing joy in the morning. Why? Because it might be a silent Saturday, but he is risen. It might look really bad right now, and it might not feel the way I want it to feel, or those expectations didn't go like I thought, but I can choose joy in the morning. Why? Because he is risen. He is risen. It became the testimony and the staple of how they began to live, and it's the same thing that we're called to lay hold of today. Folks, Jesus is living. He's alive. It does not stop it. He died for you. And I'm challenging you today. I'm going to rock you and prod you today to get a new testimony, to put a new stake in the ground. No, not just stopping it. Well, he died for me. Thank you, Lord, right? And I'm not trying to be rude, but it's like, really? That's where we stop? No. He is risen. He's alive. He's living. That's what they began to proclaim. And that's what we're called to proclaim with our lives. Serving a living Jesus changes you. You want to know why? Because joy can become the disposition of every single believer who serves a living King. When you realize that he is risen, joy becomes this disposition of a believer, where it doesn't matter what's going on around me, there's something solid inside of me because he's risen, because he's alive. It becomes a disposition that I can hold as a believer. I want to show you one account where the apostles began to witness to this. If you go through your Bible and start searching this out, you'll see it. You'll see it. That they quit stopping at he died for me, and they literally changed their testimony to he's alive. He's alive. He's alive. And everywhere you look, they begin to testify and talk about he's alive. He's alive. He's alive. It's all over your Bibles. Go look for it. You'll see it. It's everywhere. I want to show you just one. Acts 2:32. They began living as witnesses. Witnesses. You ever been a witness on a stand? They began living as witnesses. I'm witnessing to this. They said, God raised Jesus from the dead, but we are witnesses of this, that he rose again, that he's alive. This is what our life is. This is what we do. You want to know who we are? We're this, the fact that God raised Jesus from the dead. That's who we are. Like it stapled who they were in life. They began to live out of it, and they began to live for it. He's alive. We're witnesses of it. That's what we testify to. That's what we live for. If you were to stop one of these guys on the streets and say, hey, who are you? I'm a witness that Jesus is living. Okay, right? It was just like, whoa. I mean, it overtook them that he's alive. He's alive. This means a lot to me today because I see a lot of people that I feel like they just stop. They just stop. They get stuck in the silent Saturday. They have momentum, they're cruising, and all of a sudden silent Saturday comes and they just get stuck. And it stops them, and it steals the momentum, and it steals the joy from them, and they just come to this place where it's just like, just trying to make it, just hoping to get to another day. And the light's gone out just because of a silent Saturday. And there's so much more for us. If your faith doesn't go past, Jesus died for me. Maybe you're in here today and you've never even thought of that. Like, whoa. I've never even thought of that. My faith just stops at, well, he died for me. And here's the problem. If our faith stops at, well, Jesus died for me, then we will live our whole life in defense. And you will go from putting out fire to putting out fire to putting out fire. And your whole life, you'll just be in defense, just ready to defend what's coming next. Something's coming next. And your whole life's going to be one fire to the next, to the next, to the next. And do you know you don't score any points on defense? You don't. There's no points scored on defense. And we end up in this place. If all my faith gets me to is that he died for me, then I get stuck in defense mode. In my whole life, I'm just trying to put out fires and fix the next problem and fix the next problem. For a lot of us, it just looks like go to work, go home, eat, go to bed. Go home, go to work, eat, go to bed. Go to work, go home, eat, watch Netflix, go to bed. Go, right? And it's just like Amazon, Facebook, go to bed, wake up, and it's like this just defense. Like there's nothing I'm living for. There's nothing alive. It's just all blah. And I'm looking for life in something, but it's just, nah. And if all we live with is a faith that he died for me, we'll never experience the life of him being alive. And I don't want us living in defense because we were called to live with so much more and in so much more. Joy is found in scoring points. Come on, where's my competitive people at? I got any competitive people in this room? I got 3. Wow. Let's go, y'all. We're going in offense this morning. I have never lost anything. I just ran out of time. That's it. I just run out of time. I'll take you on again. You give me 10 more minutes. And I might need more time after that, but I don't lose. I just run out of time. That's it. Knowing that we have the power to overcome because your Savior is alive. Joy becomes this choice that I have. Joy becomes this ability that I have now because he's alive. Now I have something I can lay a hold of. It doesn't matter what I'm going through. It doesn't matter how silent the Saturday is. I've got something I can lay a hold of. Even James in the Bible says this, choose joy in any trial. And you think, what's wrong with you, James? What kind of trials were you experiencing? Because for me, that's the last thing I'm looking for. But what's up? There's something to lay a hold of, no matter what I'm going through, no matter how silent it is, but it has to take me beyond, well, he died for me, and I have to grab the faith that he's alive. He's risen. That he shows up and walks with me on those silent Saturdays. That he's with me, he's living. That's what he's trying to get us to lay a hold of. And the disciples discovered something in this brand new that allowed him to change the world. Brand new, that he's a resurrected king. And they laid a hold of a life-changing, game-changing understanding of what it meant to serve a living God. And I put it in words like this, that active offense is the best defense. Active offense is the best. This is what they realized. That they were at one point living like this, where I'm just trying to put out fires. I'm just trying to not get hit. I'm just trying to not see another problem. I'm just trying to not have another disaster. I'm just trying to not have another thing come upon. And they went from living like this to this active offense that, you know what is the best defense? That you just don't stop. You just press against what's pressing you. You want to come against me? I'm just going to press right back. And they discovered that this ability to just keep moving, that I'm not stopping, that as long as I keep moving, I don't need defense because it's active offense. He's alive and he's living within me. And they began to just push back what was ever pushing them. And they had no reason to stop. They had no reason to turn and run. They had no reason to just give up and say, well, it's just too hard. No, they realized there's something in me that's alive. And they begin to experience this active offense. Is defense. And I'm telling you, if I can get you out of defense mode, you can start winning. You can start winning this morning, and joy will come back. Joy will come back to who you are and what you were called to do. I was thinking about this week. We're called to offense because he's alive. We're called to it. It's who we are. It's to be the testimony. He's alive. What's that mean? I'm offense. I'm moving. I'm keep trucking. You won't stop me. Faith constantly out in the forefront because he's alive. Not faith in me, faith that he's alive and he's walking in this situation right now. It gets you out of defense. I thought of it like this. Defense gets bitter, offense gets better. Defense gets bitter. I just get stuck at what you did and how dare you did it, and oh no you won't, and I'm gonna you'll see, you'll see, you'll feel it, right? Defense just gets stuck in bitter. It's just stuck. Like, I'm all bitter. I'm all looking for revenge. I'm all trying to get people back. I'm stuck. If I'm in defense, I'm stuck. But offense gets better. Yeah, you did me wrong, but he's alive. Let's go, right? I just keep moving. Like, oh, here you go, Lord. I like to say it like this. Lord, deal with your kids. He will. Lord, deal with your kids. And you know the one I'm talking about. Right? I'm not getting stuck there. I will not get bitter. I'm getting better. And I'm just going to keep moving and moving because I'm in offense mode. There's no way you're going to get me stuck in defense. He's alive. He's alive. And they refuse to get stuck in defense. Defense is full of fear. Offense is rooted in faith. Defense just gets stuck when it doesn't look the way I want it to look or feel like I thought it was going to feel. I just get overwhelmed in fear and I just stop and I'm stuck in defense mode trying to fight fear when God said, no, be rooted in faith. Be rooted in faith that he's alive and he's walking with you right now in Silent Saturday. Gets rooted in faith. I don't get it. I might not even be able to see the next step. I might not even be able to see the staircase, but I'm going to keep on moving because he's alive. It's this offense that they laid a hold of because he's living. He's alive. Defense. Defense has no hope in trials. Defense actually loses hope because of the trial. But offense chooses joy in the trial. Offense realizes there's something to lay a hold of even in this moment. And offense chooses joy in the midst of the trial. Why? Because he's alive. You might stop me, but you won't kill him. You might slow me down, but you won't kill him. He's alive. And if he's alive, then he's with me. If he's alive, then he's right here, right now. If he's alive, then he's walking right next to me in this moment. All I've got to do is recognize him. I got to recognize him. I got to see him. I got to witness that he's alive and living. And as my testimony is concerned, he is living. It's offense. And it gives you the ability to choose joy in the midst of trial. This is what they laid a hold of. This is what they discovered, is that there can now be joy. There is joy in the middle of any and every situation because he's alive. And I love this because as you begin to read through your Bibles, you start to realize something about the men of God and the women of God in the Bible. You could put them through the worst of things, but there was something you couldn't take from them. You couldn't get their joy. You couldn't get it. You couldn't get the joy from them. And even if you go back to the accounts and look at the martyrs, the accounts of martyrs, those who were literally burnt at the stake, those who were killed for his name's sake, those who literally died because they would say Jesus one more time, even the accounts of the martyrs would say there was something in them that we couldn't take. It was like joy in the soul, and the world couldn't take it from them. And the world shouldn't be able to take it from you either, because he's alive. It was deep in their soul, and you could stop them, you could try to drown them, you could try to beat them, you could try to feather them, and they did. You could tar them, and something was rooted in their soul, this joy. You know why Nehemiah said, the joy of the Lord is your strength? We might try to find strength and riches and things and more stuff and more happiness, but he said, no, all you need is joy. It can't be taken from you when you realize he's risen. And it became the disposition, listen to me, the disposition of the believer. It's not happiness. It's not this thing that's up and down. It's just this constant disposition. I like to call it cruise control. It's just cruise control. There's this joy in my soul. And it's not appropriated from me. It's from the one who's alive in me. And we find something amazing where the Apostle Paul starts talking to the church at Colossae, and he has been given the ability to unravel the entire mystery of the gospel. I'm talking from Old Testament all the way up into the day they're living. He has the ability to unravel this mystery of what was God trying to do throughout this whole time. What was all of this? And Paul starts unraveling this mystery. And I want to show you this scripture because he finds it. He finds the mystery of what God was doing the whole time. Like, if you were to look, you're like, God, what are you trying to accomplish? Like, what is all of this? And Paul unravels this whole thing in Colossians. Look at this verse with me, 1:27. This is so awesome where Paul just starts to unravel the mystery of the gospel. And he says this, the glorious riches. Notice that word riches. I don't know what you consider as treasure. I don't know what's riches to you. I don't know what it is that you would say, this is the dearest thing in my life. For some of you, it's the china cabinet that you never eat out of. But whatever that treasure is, that there's no way I'll ever let this go. The glorious riches, the riches of this mystery, Paul's saying, is Christ in you, the hope of glory. He's saying, you want to know what God was doing this whole time? If you were to take all of the gospel and just begin to unravel it to try to find out what is this all about, it's this glorious mystery that no one could figure out until now, until he rose again, that was Christ in you, the hope of glory. That the one who's alive is not just alive next to you, but he's alive in you. He was to live in us. And this is why the disciples were like, oh my goodness, the one who was walking with us is now in us. And they became witnesses of he's alive, not here, right here. And you know what this hope of glory is? This word hope of glory, this meaning hope of glory, is this confident expectation. It's all going to be good. It's this confident expectation that I can now think ahead that it's all going to be okay. And you know what wants to steal your joy? Is that it's not going to be okay. That it's all going down the tanks. That it's all disaster. That there's no way out. There's no way you're going to be able to accomplish it. And the whole mystery of the gospel, church, is that Christ is now alive in you, but it doesn't stop there. You're to have this confident expectation of good. You know what it is? It's joy. It's joy in the morning. It's joy at the end of that silent Saturday. It's that now, no matter what you're going through, no matter what day it is, no matter what it feels like, no matter how silent it's felt, because he's alive in me, I've got this confident expectation. It's all going to be good. Where'd that go? Where'd that go? Who stole your joy? What stole your joy? What trial was it? What was it that was just too hard, that it sucked the joy out from your life and you feel like you've just been living on this empty tank, just defense mode, just looking for it again? Where is that? Where did it go? Where was it? It used to feel so alive. It used to just feel so vibrant and purposeful. Where'd that go? Because the fact that he's alive in you is the promise that you can have it again. Church, we serve a risen God. We serve a risen God. And you can have the hope of glory. It's joy in the morning. And so my challenge for you today is to let joy come in the morning again, to get your joy back, to lay a hold of it again. Because you have a choice. You have a choice now. It's not defense. It's offense. You have a choice. I can choose joy. It's your choice. No matter what you're facing, you will have a choice. I get to choose joy. That he's alive and he's living in me. Can we choose joy? Joy in the morning.